Good morning. Today we're going to try a different way of solving quadratic equations. We're going to try calling it or solving them by doing what we call square roots. So graphing, we can solve them. It takes a bit of time to graph them to find our roots. Again, roots are the zeros. And then last week we tried finding the roots without graphing by factoring. And so we're going to show another strategy today by taking square roots. And in order to do that, you need to do square roots. All right. So do your warm-ups here really quick. Let's see the answers. And I want to talk about the 2 word problems on yesterday's paper. Some kids were asking after school, and I want to make sure before we hand that paper in that we're kind of doing the right thing there. All right. So pause your video, do these, then come on back. Okay, welcome back. Here's my answers that I got. Square root, I got 9, and then a -5. The negative sign's out in front, so that's a -5. On the square root of 24, if your calculator is spitting this number out, and you have a TI-30XS like me, to get it over to a decimal, which we're going to need to do today, in the bottom right-hand corner, right-hand corner, right before top of the enter, you see a button that looks like this, little 2 arrows that go back and forth like this. That button will switch it back to a decimal. Okay, so that's the fast way to do it if your calculator is still giving you square roots. If you have something other than the TI-30XS, you're gonna have to figure out, do a quick video. I couldn't remember, and so I just looked it up. How do I change the square root answer to a decimal on TI-30XS, and bam, 10 seconds. Someone showed me a video of 10 seconds. I found that button. Man, the internet is great. All right, let's talk about yesterday's before we go on to today's, because we have leadership today, so we'll have a little bit of time. I wanted to go to the word problems. So I'm hoping that on these 2, you notice that it's 16t squared. So let's go down and do this one real quick. Because you notice down here, I didn't give you anything about the equation. We're just dropping 2 sandbags from a hot air balloon, 400 feet. The other one's from 1600. So now down here, you have to write in the gravity. Again, it's -16t squared. And then the one balloon is going to go from 400 feet, and the other balloon is a -16t squared plus 1600. So right away, I can make a dot on 1600. I can make a dot on the other one at 400 because that's my y-intercepts. Okay. Now, let's go to the graphing calculator quick and find out where these guys are going to hit. I had one in from yesterday still, so I want, actually I want -16. I'll put x squared instead of t, no big deal. I gotta get rid of that x. I'm not doing too well today. And then I had plus 400, I believe. And then the other one was -16t squared. And I think it was 1600. There it is. So my red one, I can tell by the red up here. My 400-foot one's going to hit at 5 seconds. And I want to record that on my paper here. And then the other one's going to hit at 10 seconds. We ignore the negatives because there is no such thing as a negative time. So let's go back to our paper now and put the x-intercepts. The 400 one was 5 seconds. And the other one was 10 seconds. Now I have to have an arc in here. So I got to have some more points, a couple more points for that 10 because that's a pretty big arc. So just pick some numbers. Don't even use the graphing calculator. Let's do the purple one. Pick a number. Pick like 4. If I put 4 in, 4 times 4, I want to do some in my head, but I want to square 4 in my head plus 1600. I want to let my calculator do all the work though. I know 4 times 4 is 16, so I want to do 16 times -16. It's a -256 plus 1600. And I get 1344. So I plugged in a 4 and I got 1344. So it's going to be like somewhere in here maybe. I want to do maybe an 8. 8 squared. 64 times negative 16. It's a negative 1,024. I'm going to do plus 1,600. You have to get quick at your calculator. I got 576. 8, 576 would maybe be like in this area. So now I can draw my parabola. Again, I hope you have this all done, that I'm kind of boring you to death here. All right, let's do the other one. Again, all I'm going to do is pick some numbers in here. I want to pick 2. I know 2 times 2 is 4. It's negative 64 plus 400, 336. So it's going to be maybe in here somewhere. I want to pick 3 or 4. I don't care. 4. I want to do 4. 16 times negative 16 plus 400. I'm getting 144. So my parabola is going to go something like this. All right. So now that's not really what I wanted to talk about. Hopefully you have both those. This is the part they said compare. Remember, when we compare, we always do 3 things, just like up above. When we're comparing, we do the widths, we open, how they open, and then what happens to the vertex. So let's start with the widths. Now they named them for us. So my h of 2 is the purple one, is wider than h of 1. H sub 2 t second thing is they said they both open up downwards. Now the next part is going to be a lot to squeeze in there. The 400 one, which is h of 1, translates. Which way did it go? It translated down. And how many units? What's 1,600 take away 400? 1,200, and we know the units here, 1,200 feet. So this is worth 3 points. They said compare. Now we got to tell when sandbags hit the ground. There you go. Okay, so word problems, again, I keep stressing, are the most important. Granted, you're probably not going to drop a sandbag from a hot air balloon, but you might. All right, but the point is, can I do a math problem taking words, make an equation, and can I get a graph? I need to go turn my lights on here real quick. All right, let's go to today's now. I think you're going to like today's. Again, you need a calculator, not a graphing one, but you need a calculator. All right, let's go to solving them by square roots. All right, so here we go. We're going to use the square root, and we're going to end up finding how much fencing is going to be used to put in a fence around a zoo display. All right, here's something that we need to think about when we're taking square roots. That a lot of times when we take square roots, there's 2 numbers that will work, a positive one and a negative one. We have a positive 3 times a positive 3, well, that equals 9. But if we also have a negative 3 times a negative 3, that also equals a 9. So a lot of times when we take the square root of a number, we'll say there's a plus and a minus that will make that a true true number. Plus 3 squared would be 9, and a minus 3 would be squared. Okay, so we're kind of working backwards of the square roots. We're going to take the square roots. Okay, so we have a plus minus 15, square root of 15. Now, we're going to get some decimals today, so pay careful attention to things. Also, you'll notice if you were in my classroom, this part right here is on my board for a quadratic equation. There's a plus minus and then a square root of a b squared minus 4ac. And so, again, we're heading towards Friday, which will be, let's use the quadratic equation. All right, let's do this one real quick. So the opposites of a square is a square root. So if I want to cancel this 2 here, we should have learned earlier in our career that the opposite would be a square root. So if I do that and I take the square root of 16, there's going to be a plus 4 and a minus 4 that would make that true. And so on this one, roots again are solve means solve my quadratic equation, find my roots. My roots are negative 4 and 4. And I don't care if you wrote it this way, if they're both the same numbers. If you wrote plus minus 4, but you must write roots are. That's what we're finding. X equals plus minus 4 doesn't tell us that we're finding roots. All right, now over here, try this one on your calculator. Try taking the square root of negative 4. Yeah, mine says domain error, because you can't take the square root of a negative number. So this one would be a no solution. And before you start you try it, let's go to our graphing calculator real quick. If I got that 16 to the other side of the equation like we were doing last week, which is a perfect square, we have x squared and a 16. 16 is a perfect square. But I would have x squared minus 16, do you agree? So let's go to our graphing calculator just real quick and just put that in. We had x squared minus 16, I think it was. And look at there. There's my negative 4, like we said, and there's my positive 4. So again, it's still making a quadratic equation. They're just asking me, I want the roots. And how far, I could answer the question, how far is it from this point to this point? Well, it takes 4 to get to there and another 4 over here. So the distance between these two guys is 8. All right. All right, let's go back to our paper. Now, do the you try it real quick. And let's see how you did. I think yours says whiteboards by accident. That was what they're doing them on whiteboards in my classroom now. Let's see how you did. I hope you got roots are plus and minus 11. The next one, yeah, we can take the square root of a 0. It's 0. 0 times 0 is still 0. And the last one, we had a negative 16, so that was a no solution. Okay? All right. Sometimes we have to do a little bit of math. Again, you have to study these quadratic equations to figure out. We're going to have 4 different methods of solving quadratic equations. We already know graphing. We already know factoring. But this one's a pretty simple one because I don't have any x's. And so what I want to do is I want to solve it by a square root. I want minus 5 from both sides. And now I got x squared equals 0. If I take the square root of both of these guys, I got x equals 0. So my root is 0. You could write the number 0, or it probably would be a better one because zeros is conflicting with the word 0. All right, let's go do this one. I don't have any x's. I could factor this guy because that's a perfect square and that's a perfect square and we get the same number, or I can do this. I can add 25 to both sides. Sorry, that's a messy one. I want to try to get my x squared by itself. And I want to leave it as a fraction right now because as I look at that, aren't these both perfect squares? So when I take the square root, I want to take the square root of both of these guys. The square root of 25 is 5, and the square root of 4 is 2. So now 5 divided by 2 is, and by the way, this is a plus minus because I just took the square root. So my roots are negative 2.5, because 5 divided by 2 is 2.5, and positive 2.5. Okay. Sometimes we notice here, hey, I got this whole quantity squared, and I look over here and I see, hey, that's a perfect square, 3 times 3. So I can do this at this point. Rather than taking x plus 2 times x plus 2 and get this x squared plus 4x plus 4, I'm just going to take the square now. So this cancels out with this and just leaves me with an x plus 2, because that whole quantity is squared. Over here on the other side, I have a plus minus 3. And we got some more math to do. So now I'm going to finish this. X plus 2 equals a positive 3, and an x plus 2 equals a negative 3. And let's continue solving. So one of my zeros is a 1. And it looks like my other one is a negative I. So you can say roots or zeros. Again, I don't care. I usually put the smallest one. I have 2 of them, so it's a negative 5 and 1. All right. So sometimes it's just do the math to get that x squared. All right. You do these two real quick. Let's see how you did. Did you recognize that first one? We had a negative 49. And so anytime I want to take the square root of a negative, it's a no solution. And on my other one over there, I got a 1 and a 9 when I was all done. Okay. All right. Now this is where we get crazy, and I'm glad you have a calculator, because sometimes we're going to get decimals. They're irrational numbers, and they'll tell us most of the time, we want you to round it to the nearest hundred, so you got to know how to round to hundreds. Hundreds place is the second place. This one's tenths, this one's hundreds, and so we're going to look to the number to the right. So anytime they say round it to the hundreds, my answer has to be 2 digits long. We look to the right. If the number is less than 5, that number stays the same. If it's more than 5, we bump it up. So in this case, my answer is just going to be 0.23. Very important that you know how to round to hundreds, because we're going to do a lot of it in your math career. Most of the time we round to the hundreds. I'm looking at this one here, and if I want to solve it by taking square roots, I'm going to get that 2 to the other side, so that I have 2x squared equals 80. I want to get the x by itself, so I'm going to divide by 2. So now I got x squared equals 40. And now I want to take the square root of both sides. So now I got x equals plus minus something, square root of 40. And I'm getting 2 square root 10, but I want to convert that to a decimal. My calculator's spitting out 6.324. I don't care about the other digits. Here's the hundreds place. I'll look to the right, there's a 4. So I get 6.32. So my roots are plus minus 6.32. Okay. Again, pay attention to the rounding. All right, here we go. Try these 3. Get the x squared by itself, and then take the square root of everything. Pause your video and come on back and we'll see how you did. I was just checking my square root here of 32, just to make sure. Square root of 32. I'm getting 5.65. So there's a 6 next door to the 5, so that bumps that 6 or 5 up to a 6. So I like that answer. Over there I had a square root of negative 45. Then you can't take the square root of a negative. And I'm pretty sure I'm good on 90, square root of 90. I'm getting 9.486. So I like 9.49. Yep. Okay, so I'm just double checking because sometimes kids are finding some mistakes in my video. All right, so here we go. Here's a zookeeper is buying fence to enclose a pen at the zoo. It's an isosceles triangle. There's already fence on the side that borders the path. The area of the pen, so that means it's an area problem here so far. They said the area of this whole pen is 4,500 square feet. The zookeeper can buy fence in whole feet only. That's going to be important. You can't go to the store and say, I want 16.7 feet of fence. They'll say 16 or 17. Again, you're going to start to see now as we're getting to the end of ninth grade, more of these problems that require common sense of how's my answer and what does it mean and what am I going to do to go by. Okay? All right. So they gave us the area and it's a triangle. So we need to know area equals 1/2 the base times the height. We need to know that. I like to use the area equals 0.5 times my base times my height. Same thing. Some people say base times height divided by 2. Same thing. All three of those are the same thing. Now, as I look at my area, they said it was 4,500 square feet. I know it's an area answer because they told me it's square feet right here. And they said my base and my height. It's a 0.5 is in my formula times x times an x. My base is an x and my height is an x. So do you agree that 0.5 times x is 0.5x squared? All right, so let's put that. Let's get that x squared by itself. Who cares if it's on the right-hand side? Let's divide by 0.5 on both sides. And I'm getting 9,000. That's a reasonable answer. I divide by 0.5. Now, to get rid of my x squared, I want to take the square root of both sides. And I'm getting this decimal, my 94.868, and so forth. Now here they said we can only buy them in whole feet, so I need to go to the ones digit and round it. So I'm going to get x equals a plus minus 95. Well, I can't have a negative amount of fence, so I want to throw out the negative. And now I can say, okay, each x equals 95. Now, they said we have to buy the fence, and it looks like we need fence over here. And we need fencing over here to make this pen go into the right. So I have two x's over there. So I need to do 95 plus 95, or 95 times 2. Because I have two x's over there, two sides of the fence that I want to get put in. So let's answer the question now. The zookeeper I'm getting 190. Is by 190 feet of fence. Okay. There we go. Answered the question. Showing all your work. This one's kind of, oh, I did to try it in the wrong place. So here's a lot. I see a lot of these in Arizona. My lot's this way. It's really bigger in the back here than it is in the front. So my house kind of sits right in the middle here. And it's on a cul-de-sac. So the solid line shows the boundaries where X represents the width of the front yard. Find the width of the front yard. So there's the question. I got to find the X. They said the area is 6,000 square feet. They gave us the area of a trapezoid. Again, we want to start memorizing that. Base plus 1, base of 1 plus base of 2 times 1/2 my height. Let's plug all the numbers in. I got 6,000 equals, I like to use the decimal, 0.5. Now what's my height over here in my trapezoid? 2x. In my big parentheses here, I want to have base of 1. Doesn't matter which one. I want to call this base of 1 plus base of 2. So let's do parentheses first. I got working parentheses that I can do. X plus 2x's is 3x's. And then I want to take 0.5 times 2x. Well, what's half of 2 is 1x. So now we got this x times 3x, which would be 3x squared. Let's get our x squared by itself. I'm getting 2,000. I should have known that. I didn't need the calculator. So now take the square root. Even though it looks like a big hard problem, if you just plug the numbers into the right place, memorize the formula, I'm getting, this is a decimal, 4.72. How about you? All right, I hope so. So now really that's x equals a plus minus 4. They said round it to the nearest foot. So let's round it, which would be 45. Now again, we can't have a negative measurement, so I want to throw that out. And x equals 45, and that's really what they asked me to find, my front of the yard. They asked me to find the back of the yard, well then I would put 45 times 2. But they're asking here, what's the width of my front of the yard? From 45 feet. And make sure you put units. I'm pretty sure they said feet. Yep. All right. There you go. So, square roots, way easier than graphing. Okay. All right. First one there, I kind of help you a little bit, kind of baby steps. Second one, I do a little bit less. And then down here, you're on your own. Okay. Let's take a peek at our word problems. Oh, yeah. On my review, I wanted to talk about that. We did these earlier this year. And so if we're going to do elimination to determine the solution of the system, we want to show all the work. And so if you remember, we line these guys up. And I want to get one of these, either my x's or the y's, to go away. And so in this case, it would be best probably to multiply that first equation by 3. Because then I'd have a minus 6x and a plus 6x. So again, we can't forget how to do this. So my first equation is going to be minus 6x minus 9y equals 3 times 8 is 24. I'm going to copy my other equation down here. 6x minus 5y equals minus 10. We're going to solve. My x's go away. So negative 9 and a negative 5 is a minus 14y's. 24 take away 10 is 14. Divide by negative 14. I ain't giving much room, so don't worry about that. Y equals negative 1. But I'm not done, because they said solve the systems of equations. I just solved one part of it. So we're going to plug that negative 1 in. It doesn't matter which equation you plug it in. Let's plug it into the first one. I'm not going to take a whole lot of time deciding. Whoops. We solved for the y, didn't we? So minus 2x minus 3 times minus 1 equals 8. So now our answer here is minus 2.5 minus 1. That's where those two linear lines, they're linear lines, are going to cross. So that's the solution right there. Okay, so we can't forget this. Again, there's still talk about whether you guys are going to take the AZ merit test. Right now, it's kind of talking about, we for sure know that the 8th, the 10th, and 6, 8, and 10 graders are taking, and 11th graders are taking the ACT test. And so all these things that we learned, we just can't learn them just for temporarily. We have to make sure we kind of, maybe sometimes with a little nudge, oh yeah, I remember how to do that. All right, I want to set you free for the day. We'll talk to you tomorrow, hopefully in school. Bye.